like God done for real blessed me, for real.
That's
Like,
true.
he done took his time on me, like really blessed me, like gave me all the gifts that I can even imagine.
Right.
So I'm like, if I don't do my part, like to the fullest that I can do it, I'm talking about work hard,
Right.
like give it everything I got, I feel like I'm cheating him. I feel like I'm letting him down, like I'm cheating him. If I don't develop all the gifts he done given me into like elite skills and be one of the best, I'm cheating him.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Keith's Hot Takes. And on today's show, we're going to have the Season 5 premiere of the football season on Keith's Hot Takes. And I got my guy, C. Ruff, joining the show today. Ruff, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing good, bro. All right, so to start the show, me and Ruff, we're going to talk about Winston State football. So, Ruff, the season hasn't started how we wanted it to for our Rams. They're 0-2 for the third straight season. The first game was really rough. We had 15 penalties for 133 yards, and most times the penalties would come at the worst time. We're about to get off the field, and then we'll get a penalty. So we can't have that. I also had 4 turnovers, some really just atrocious turnovers that cost us, gave the other team good field position. A positive, our run game was really working well. We had 193 yards. In game two, we cut down on the penalties, but our defense was really, really bad. They allowed 519 yards. 260 of those were on the ground. We did have another 100 yards as a team on the ground. We had 124. Somehow we only had 21 passing yards. That is really bad. I've never heard of a team having that few passing yards. I know it was raining, but still, that's really bad. So, Ruff, is it time to press the panic button for our Rams?
I don't want to panic, but there is a major cause for concern.
Yes, sir.
Like you said, 0-2. The first game didn't go the way you wanted it to at all, but the second game, I mean, last week was just embarrassing. There's no other way to put it. You go down the Central against a team that people thought the game would be competitive, would be fun to watch, and you just get demolished. You're not able to score. You're not able to do anything on either side of the ball. It just wasn't good, man. It was tough to see as a Ram. But in life, you're going to go through adversity. You have to be able to make adjustments and respond. So, like I said, don't want to panic, but we have to be going back to the drawing board. We have to figure out why the season has started as poorly as it has, and see if you can come out and get a win in your next game.
Yes. So the reason why I'm not going to panic yet is because I just got some breaking news before we came on the air. Jameer Slade is going to start Saturday when we go down to Elizabeth City. He's our freshman quarterback that's really good. He played at Dudley, won a state championship. I think our quarterback play is a big reason why we've started 0-2. We got the transfer quarterback from Fayetteville State. He hasn't been very good. In 2 games, he has 5 turnovers, and you can't win games when you have turnovers like that. So I'm going to see how the freshman quarterback looks this week when we go to Elizabeth City State. We know they beat us last year, and they had a Gatorade bath, and you would have thought they won the Super Bowl. So I want to see how he looks because they put him in the second half, but by the time they put him in Saturday, it was pouring down rain, and he really couldn't show us much. So I'm excited to see how he's looked. Unfortunately, it looks like Dominic Graves won't come back this year. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but it doesn't look likely that he's going to return. So I'm hoping we can get some good quarterback play and we can score more touchdowns because in 2 games we've only scored 2 offensive touchdowns, and both of those were on like free plays. The defense jumped off sides for Central State, and we got 2 touchdowns. I don't want to panic yet, but like you said, things need to change in a hurry because things have started off rough for us again this year. And we have, looking at our schedule coming up, we play Elizabeth City State, Chowan. Hopefully, we can get revenge against them. Lincoln, PA for homecoming October 1st, and then at Livingstone. So coming up, we have some winnable games. So as we start CIAA play, hopefully we can start winning some games and really turn this thing around. Because, like you said, it was embarrassing to lose to Central State. They really aren't known for being a football power. They only won one game last year. So that was embarrassing, and then not showing up Saturday, a big rivalry game against Central, that was embarrassing. So we'll just have to hope and pray that our Rams look better this week. On to the NFL games now. We're gonna start with our game of the week. It's a Thursday night game. It's the first game on Prime Video. We got a really good game to start out. It's the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. It's going to be a great environment. Uh, Oddly enough, Justin Herbert, he's won the two games on the road that he's played against the Chiefs, but he hasn't been able to win at home against the Chiefs. So he's 2-0 on the road against the Chiefs, and he's 0-2 at home against the Chiefs. Khalil Mack looked great last week. That was a huge addition for them because in the fourth quarter, in a game when you need to seal it with your defense, you got him and Joey Bosa who can get out to the quarterback, and that's just terrifying. The Chiefs looked really good last week. They were just moving it up and down the field against the Cardinals for that first quarter. I think they scored 3 touchdowns, then they looked really good. This is going to be a really good game. I was going back and forth with my pick last night, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way to win late against the Chargers. I think this is going to be a really good game to start our week 2. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this game. Ruff, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive game, but I think in the end, like you said, Patrick Mahomes and the offense will be too much. He's coming off a 5 touchdown game with no interceptions. He looks like he's got something to prove because a lot of people said that they would take a step back without Tyreek Hill. And for the Chargers, Keenan Allen is unlikely to play due to injury. And so that's taking a weapon away from their offense. I just think the Kansas City will be too much, and they'll win by, I'm going to say a touchdown.
Okay, I was thinking a field goal, maybe, set up for a late field goal. But Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, two of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the league, and our league is going to be in good hands with these young quarterbacks. Moving to our Sunday slate, we'll start with the New York Jets visiting the Cleveland Browns. I got Cleveland here. As we saw last week, what Cleveland's going to do until Deshaun Watson gets back, they're going to lean on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they're going to lean on that great defense and let Myles Garrett and their pass rushers get after the quarterback. I don't think Zach Wilson is going to play this week. I definitely wouldn't bring him back against this defense. So I think the Browns are going to lean on their run game and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and their defense is going to shut down the Jets' offense. And I think the Browns will win probably very comfortably by at least 2 touchdowns. How about you, Ron?
Oh, that's a game by two teams that aren't very good. The Browns have a good team, but without Deshaun Watson, they aren't.
Yes.
They're not explosive offensively. The Jets again are not a good team. So I think that the Browns will win. I won't say 2 touchdowns. I think that's a bit much, but I could definitely see a full touchdown to maybe even 10 points.
Okay, yeah, because Jacoby Brissett, he kind of really struggled with some throws last week. So I think as they start to face better teams, they'll really load the box and really try to game tackle against Nick Chubb and really try to take that run game away and try to make Jacoby Brissett beat him because at times last week he's really struggled to make some easy throws. So I really think that, as the competition gets tougher, I think that's be something to look out for against the Browns.
Yeah, one thing, like you said about Brissett, he's going to have to get on the same page as Amari Cooper, especially as they start to play better competition. Because Amari Cooper last game had 3 catches for 17 yards. I mean,
Crazy.
that's That's non-existent. I mean, you signed this guy to be your number one receiver. He's supposed to be out there putting up numbers. And so, like you said, against the Jets, that's not a hard matchup. They can win with him probably having another mediocre performance. But if they start to get tougher into their schedule, Amari Cooper's going to have to step his game up.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't seem like they were looking his way. I was shocked. But the Panthers couldn't stop the run game, so maybe that's why. So maybe if a team stops their run game and they have to pass more, maybe Amari Cooper's numbers will look better. So next we'll talk about your Washington Commanders visiting the Detroit Lions. So I think your Commanders would be smart to run the ball a lot because the Eagles had 216 rushing yards against the Lions. So I think that this is a game the Commanders have to win. Their schedule's going to get tougher. So you got to win the easy ones. Winning last week against Jacksonville. I know they let Jacksonville come back. I don't know what Trevor Lawrence was thinking at the end. He just looked like he threw a Hail Mary at the end. He just threw it and got picked off. And the Redskins found a way. I mean, the Commanders, excuse me, found a way to win. And I think they'll do that again this week. Carson Wentz looked really good. His weapons, he has a lot of weapons. Samuels, Dotson. I told y'all he's gonna be the truth. And then you got Terry McLaurin as well. So I think this is the game the Commanders should win. The Lions, they'll be competitive. Hopefully they don't try to fall down big and then try to come back late like they did last week. But I think the Commanders will win. Probably be a very competitive game for most of the game. How about you, bro?
And like you said, I mean, it's pivotal that you get out to the 2-0 start. I mean, you're going against competition that's not very good. Although the Jaguars are improved from last season, I don't think they're no more than a 7-win team maybe this year. Um, and the Detroit Lions are always competitive as far as they don't really get blown out a lot, but they don't really win a whole lot of games. And so I think it's going to be pivotal or imperative that the Washington Commanders come out, take care of business again. Like you said, run the football. Gibson looked good in week one. He took care of the ball. He was explosive in the run and the pass game. And so I think that's what you got to do. I think also you got to start to get Terry McLaurin more looks. Week one was the Curtis Samuel show and Gibson. I mean, both of them ended up with I think they had about 10 receptions combined. That's not what I expected. Terry McLaurin is a playmaker. He's a beast. You got to find him and get him the ball. And so if you do those things, you'll be in good shape. I was encouraged by what I saw for the most part by our defense. The pass rush looked okay, even though we didn't even blitz a lot. So just come out there, show up again, and hopefully Carson Wentz can take better care of the ball this week. Though he made two bad decisions. The first interception was kind of a great play by the defender. He kind of just jumped it on a short pass, but the second one was a terrible play altogether. So just take care of the football this week and run it effectively, and I think the Commanders will jump out to a 2-0 season record.
Yes, sir. And Jared Goff's gonna give you one or two because he's not that great. So hopefully Washington can take advantage of that. So next we'll talk about probably one of the best 1 o'clock games that we'll have Sunday. Will be the Tampa Bay Bucks visiting the New Orleans Saints. As we know, Tom Brady is 0-4 in the regular season against the Saints. Ruff, will he get his first win in the regular season against the Saints this week?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think that Chris Godwin will not play. He's not ruled out officially, but I don't believe he's going to play
Yeah,
by
I
any
don't think
means.
so either.
Mike Evans looked like he might have even got a little gimpy.
Hmm.
Julio Jones looked amazing. I told people, man, you can go back to my tweets. I told people months ago while he was still a free agent that Julio Jones is not washed. Is he the same player he was in his prime? Absolutely not. That's not normal to be that good still at 33 years of age. But can he be a very good receiver in the NFL still? Yes. And he looked like that on week one. The Saints, they got lucky in that game. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. They were fortunate to come back and win that one against superior competition. And so I think that this is going to be a close game. I think it'll be competitive. We know that Tom Brady against the Saints always is a good game. But where is that game at?
It's in let me see, New Orleans.
Wow, that's tough. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. I am. I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. I think they'll continue to run effectively with Leonard Fournette. Um, and I think they'll find a way to get Russell Gage more involved. He did not get any run basically. I mean, he played probably 10, 15 snaps, and that was it. And he was projected to be a starter, but they went with Julio, and Julio started thriving, and he didn't really play much. So again, I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think that Tampa Bay will end up winning. I'm gonna say by a field goal.
That's what I was thinking as well. I got the Bucks as well. I'm a little concerned about the line because I don't think Donovan Smith is going to play. And I saw your tweets about Sean Wells, who was the backup. You're just ruthless against that man. Um, but I mean, he was good in the run game, but when it came to pass, he panicked. I mean, he just looked really bad. So I'm concerned about that because the Saints have a really good defense, and I think they'll heat up Tom Brady, try to make him uncomfortable. Because you have to. They're loaded at receiver, and you saw when you don't aren't able to get pressure against against Tom Brady. He'll heat you up and he'll light you up, as we saw against my Cowboys. They have to be better in the red zone, especially in a game like this where it's going to probably come down to the wire. You want to get touchdowns instead of field goals like they did last week. Uh, they didn't execute in the red zone like Brady wanted to. Protection broke down, some other things. So I know they'll want to clean that up this week. And I think Tom Brady will get his first win in the regular season against the Saints. And I think this is part of the reason why he came back. He didn't want to have this on his resume that he didn't beat the Saints when he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And I know Tom Brady is very competitive. So I think they'll win a very close game against the Saints. And like you said, they got lucky against the Falcons last week. I was shocked when I clicked on the ESPN app and I saw they were down 26-10. I was like, what is going on? And then the Falcons, like they always do, when they have a big lead in the fourth quarter, they just packed it in, and that's just what they do. Moving on to our next game, we got the Carolina Panthers visiting the New York Giants. The Giants, they shocked me last week going to Tennessee. They look like they're going to be much better under Brian Daboll. They got down 13-0, and then they roared back against the Titans. Saquon Barkley, he looked really good because you can tell they upgraded that line. He had some holes, and they opened up some nice holes for him to run through. The Giants had 238 rushing yards, and Saquon, I think, had 164 of that. So he looked really good last week. I took the Panthers because I don't think they want to get off to an 0-2 start. I'm a little concerned because of how bad their run defense was last week. They allowed 217 rushing yards last week. And you know the Giants are looking at that, licking their chops. So they'll need to clean that up, and they'll need to get off to a better start because they really didn't get things figured out until late in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. And luckily, they were playing a Browns team who didn't have their starting quarterback, so they were able to come back in that game and make it interesting. So getting off to a better start and protecting Baker, I think that'll be key. And having better snaps with his center, because they struggled. The center was throwing it low and stuff like that. So if the Panthers are able to get off to a better start, limit the Giants in the run game, I think they'll win a very close, probably they'll probably win by a field goal or a touchdown. So I got the Panthers winning here. How about you, Ruff?
I'm actually going to lean with the Giants.
Okay.
I think that Saquon, like you said, looked very good. He looked like he's healthy. A few things that I have issues with the Giants, excuse me, is it's like they get in their own way. You have a weapon in Kadarius Toney who you refuse to play. They tried to say last night, I think it was, that he's still a little bit hampered, which I don't believe. I just don't believe that. That hadn't been reported all week. And then once you decided not to play him, but 4 or 5 plays, it seemed like, and give him only 2 rushes, no receptions, no targets in the passing game, now you want to try to say he's still dealing with injury. I just don't believe it. And I think that the Giants have to use their playmakers, use their weapons. A guy that we know was hurt was Sterling Shepard, and you gave him way more action than Toney. So I think it's going to be a close game, like you said. I think that Baker Mayfield will play a little bit better than he did last week. But like you said, fumbling snaps and the turnover potential is always there with him. I just don't trust him. But both of those teams, I don't really trust. So it comes down to two teams that's not very good. Which one will do a little bit more?
Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, his line can protect him because Wink Martindale is going to heat Baker up. He's going to see that the Browns were able to get a lot of pressure on them. Their rookie left tackle, I was surprised they just left him out there with Myles Garrett. Like that's Myles Garrett. That ain't no scrub. You ain't gonna have no help out there. You're just gonna let your rookie struggle out there. And Myles Garrett, I think he got back there like two straight plays, and I'm like, what are they doing? So hopefully they have a better game plan. Uh, but I think the Giants, they obviously have the better coach. So I wouldn't be surprised they win that one. But I think from everything I'm hearing from the Panthers, they're tired of losing and stuff like that. So I think they'll win a close game Sunday. Next, we have the New England Patriots visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers. That Pittsburgh defense, they really got after Joe Burrow Sunday. I was shocked how they got after him. Joe Burrow wasn't making some good reads. He was really forcing stuff on a lot of his interceptions. I have no idea what he was doing. They had 7 sacks, the Steelers, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and they had a fumble recovery. And they took one of those interceptions back to the house. So I'm taking the Steelers. The Patriots are a mess on offense. I really don't think they have an identity of what they want to try to do on offense. And I think even though TJ Watt is going to be out for 6 weeks with a torn pec, I think they'll be able to still get a lot of pressure on Mac Jones. And I think the Steelers will win by at least 10. I think it'll be a low scoring, kind of like a defensive struggle. Won't be a lot of points scored probably. It looked like their week 1 game, maybe like a 20-23 type of game. But I think the Steelers defense, I think they're going to lean on them. And I think the Steelers offense will be able to do enough to get a win in their home opener. How about you, bro?
Yeah, I think the Steelers will win that game, like you said, but I'm gonna go with probably a touchdown. I think that the defense, like you said, will step up. They'll get to Matt Jones, make him very uncomfortable, and kind of get him routed. I think that for the Patriots, they got to do a better job of getting the ball to playmakers too. I mean, you brought in Devontae Parker, who is a good receiver. You brought him in; he was barely used at all in that game. They barely used Hunter Henry. I think that they love Jonnu Smith, which is a good tight end too. But I think you got to get Hunter Henry the ball as well. So maybe you need to run more 2 tight end sets, and find a way to get those guys involved. But I think in the end, the Steelers will win a game, like I said, probably by 6 or 7. And they'll just be too much. The defense will be too much for the Patriots offense.
I agree with you. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, they looked much better last week. And the Colts, they really just, they were messing around. Matt Ryan didn't play good for most of that game against the Texans, who look like they may be a little better this year. So, Ruff, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think the Colts are going to win that game. I think they'll do a better job of getting the ball to their playmakers. They got a guy in Paris Campbell who is a very good receiver. He's solid, but he's had a major injury history. And but he's finally back healthy. And last week he had 37 yards. I think maybe he can get 50 yards this week and do a little bit more. I think their defense will also step it up a little bit more. Hopefully they can get Shaq Leonard back as he missed week 1. That'll be pivotal if they can get him back on the field. But yeah, I'm around with the Colts.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm thinking they're going to lean on Jonathan Taylor, especially if Matt Ryan struggles again this week. Jacksonville, they're improved, but Trevor Lawrence, he'll still make some horrible decisions at the worst time, like we saw last week. I think this will be kind of another year where they're building towards getting things turned around in Jacksonville. So I think the Colts will win a close divisional game. We have the Miami Dolphins visiting the Baltimore Ravens. Both of these teams looked really good last week. The Dolphins look good under their new coach, Mike McDaniels, and Tyreek and Waddle. They look like they're going to be a problem. I'm interested to see how this Ravens secondary deals with them because that's a lot of speed. you can't be caught, gambling or anything like that because they'll take it to the house on you. And the Ravens look really good. Lamar, he was spinning that ball last week. He had some nice touchdowns. Ruff, so how do you see this very intriguing 1 o'clock matchup playing out?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very intriguing game. Actually, I think, like you said, Lamar played well in Week 1. I think he's got a lot on the line. He's trying to get them to guarantee more of his dollars on the new deal. And so he's got motivation to put up and really go out there and perform. Um, I'm looking for Baltimore to try to get Devin Duvernay touches once again, but also Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman is supposed to be their wide receiver one, and he wasn't really utilized a lot last week. I think they'll get the ball to him more. I'm interested to see what the running game is going to look like. Will J.K. Dobbins be able to come and play this week because he was out in Week 1? And then on the Miami side of the ball, the Tua and Tyreek Hill connection looked pretty strong in Week 1. But I think Chase Edmonds is a key player for them as well. Because Tua's a guy that likes to check it down. He doesn't have, although Tyreek tried to say he has such a strong arm and all this. He's a guy that doesn't mind checking it down to the running back, and so Chase Edmonds is a guy I think that once again will be heavily utilized in the mid, to short passing game. Jalen Waddle as well. But I think that Baltimore in the end will slow the game. Well, actually make the game go faster by running the ball a lot. And I think they're going to win a game by probably 6.
Yeah, I was going back and forth on this one, but it came down for me the team that has the better quarterback, and obviously that's Lamar Jackson. Uh, like you said, Tua really he just wants to get it to Tyreek and Waddle right there at the line of scrimmage. You really just want to get the ball in their hands and let them work. But like you said, I think Baltimore is going to really chew the clock, especially if Dobbins can come back and lean on their run game because you really don't want to get in a shootout with this Dolphins offense because you got Waddle and Tyreek, and you know how explosive Tyreek is. So I got Baltimore as well, and I think they'll win the time of possession and win a close game, probably a walk-off field goal by Justin Tucker. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, the Rams looked really bad last week to open up the season. Jalen Ramsey, he was getting burnt. He was getting ate up by Stephon Diggs and others. And Matthew Stafford on offense, his offensive line really did do a good job protecting him. And I didn't notice this until after the game, but Vance Jefferson not playing really hurt them because they didn't have anybody who could be a deep threat, somebody else besides Cooper Kupp who could help their offense, and I think that's why they struggled and only scored 10 points, excuse me. But I think this week they're going to take out their frustration on the Falcons, and they'll probably win comfortably. I don't won't say it won't be a blowout, but I think they'll fix some things. They had 10 days to prepare for the Falcons. I think they'll look much better this week. I think Aaron Donald's going to really get after Marcus Mariota, and I got the Rams bouncing back this week, and hopefully they can find ways to get Allen Robinson involved because I don't know why you bring him in and really only throw him one ball. And they threw him another one, but the game was already out of hand and it was decided. So I think the Rams look much better this week. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, the Rams I think are going to take care of business this week. They'll be have a bad taste in their mouth from that Week 1 performance, which was embarrassing. I think, like you said, Allen Robinson, you brought him in to be the number 2 receiver. You're trying to replace Robert Woods, and you barely utilized him at all. I think you have to get him the football. You also have to have better performance from your defense, like you said. Bobby Wagner was suspect in Week 1. Jalen Ramsey got worked on a few plays.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald started the game out pretty hot, but then pretty much after the first quarter, he was MIA. I mean, you're just going to have to get more from your top players, and you're going to have to have Matthew Stafford also make better decisions. Sometimes he puts the ball in harm's way too much and just, makes decisions that aren't smart. From an Atlanta perspective, I think that Marcus Mariota is a better quarterback than a lot of people realize. I think that he was in a bad situation or in a situation that kind of spoiled himself originally. But I think they are also gonna need to get Kyle Pitts more involved. Kyle Pitts was one of the busts of the week. I mean, I think he caught two passes. He was basically a no show.
It was crazy.
Cordell Patterson played well actually. I mean, he ran the ball very effectively, but you got to get more from your pass catchers, man. Just have to. And so I'm seeing this game being maybe like a 26-17 game, something like that, in favor of the Rams.
And hopefully the Rams can find a run game because it was non-existent. But I think that had more to do with Buffalo's front seven being so good. But maybe against a Falcons team who you probably should be able to move off the line and open up some holes for Akers and Henderson. So we shall see. Probably the shocker of the week was last night. Obviously, Seattle beating Denver. I think it was more of Denver beating themselves. We'll talk about Denver in a little bit. But obviously, they beat Denver. Now, let's see how Geno looks in week 2 against the 49ers defense. So I think their front seven is really going to try to get after Geno because that's something the Broncos were able to do, really get a lot of pressure on them. But I think the 49ers will do a better job of getting after them a little more, especially because their front seven is legit. You got Nick Bosa and others, Fred Warner. So I think the 49ers, they'll win a very close, physical game. I think both teams will probably try to lean on their run games. I don't expect Geno to play as well as he did last night. He's going to play well, but I don't think he's going to play out of this world like he did last night. He really shocked me with how well he played. But I think Trey Lance and the offense, they'll bounce back. They had a lot of penalties. They were beating themselves. I know the conditions weren't the best in Chicago to open up the season, but I was still disappointed in them and how they played against the Bears, who look like they're going to be much improved this year. But yeah, I got the 49ers winning. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think the 49ers will win as well. They got to bounce back. Week 1, they looked terrible, like you said. I mean, it might have been the conditions, but both teams dealt with the conditions. So I don't really like to give a whole lot of passes to teams with weather, especially with the 49ers being a team that's run heavy. They should be fine in the game where
Yeah,
the weather's bad. The Elijah Mitchell injury wasn't good. He's out for a while. So
2
that's not a good
months.
thing for them. They have some other running backs that maybe be able to pick up the slack. But Trey Lance is going to have to be better both on the ground and in the air. The reason why you have him starting over Jimmy G because you think that Jimmy G has shown you what his ceiling is, and you want to go with the younger player who has the upside. But Trey Lance is going to have to step it up. Got to get Deebo Samuel involved more in the passing game. I don't necessarily want to see him doing a whole lot of running another football this year. He probably will have to keep doing it now, like I said, due to the injury to Mitchell. But he talked about even that he didn't want to be running it a whole lot. He wanted to be focused in the passing game. So you got to get the ball to Deebo. You got to get the ball to Brandon Ayuk, who is another playmaker. George Kittle, maybe he'll be able to play in week 2. That would help them out in their offense. But I think the 49ers will take care of business, like you said. Seattle got the win last night, but I don't see them getting another one this week.
Yeah, and I wonder like if they didn't want to risk George Kittle playing in those conditions in Chicago were horrible. So he had a groin injury, and you just can't mess with that, especially on a field that was in such horrible shape. So if Kittle can come back, that'll definitely help him out in the run game because he's a really good blocker, and he really is good in the pass game, as we know. So next, oh boy. This one's gonna be hard for me to watch. It's probably gonna turn it off at halftime. But anyways, the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Dallas Cowboys. As we know, we didn't look great last week, and Dak Prescott is gonna be out for 6 to 8 weeks with a thumb injury. Cooper Rush. He won last week in Minnesota, but I don't think he's gonna be able to keep up with Joe Burrow in this offense. I think they're gonna play much better. Now, if Joe Burrow turns it over 4 times, like he did last week, that's about the only chance we have of staying in this game. I don't think our defense will be able to hold down this potent offense of the Bengals. We need somebody besides Micah Parsons to get pressure on the quarterback. Micah can't do it by himself. DeMarcus Lawrence, Dante Fowler, we signed him. Sam Williams, somebody else besides Michael Parsons needs to get some pressure on the quarterback, Joe Burrow, because we saw the Steelers do it. So maybe the Cowboys take a few more chances and blitz Joe Burrow a little more, because I don't trust our corners on their star receivers. I'm really nervous for Trayvon Diggs going up against Jamar Chase. I know my mentions are going to be on fire Sunday, all game, because he's probably going to get cooked by Chase. He did good for the most part in the game. He did give up a touchdown to Mike Evans, but Mike Evans put a nice move on Diggs. On offense, I hope we use Turpin more because I don't understand why we didn't use him, especially when we saw the Bucks were sitting on everything short. And every time we threw the ball to CD, he had about 3 or 4 jerseys around him because nobody else scares an opposing team besides CD, really. Because we got a bunch of no names after CD. We got some injuries. Michael Gallup, it'll be a few weeks away before he plays. James Washington probably won't come back until later in the season. So hopefully we get Turpin involved on the offense because I think he can help. He can be a deep threat, somebody that can soften up the defense and not have him playing so close to the line of scrimmage. Hopefully, Jason Peters can play this week because once Connor McGovern went out last week, we had to bring our backup in, and he wasn't very good at left guard. They started bullying him and they started blitzing at him, and he wasn't able to pick it up. He wasn't able to block Devin White well, and that really threw off our offense. So hopefully our offense looks better this week, but I think the Bengals will win very comfortably. I think they'll win by at least 10 to 14 points. And that hurts me to say that, but I have to be honest here. How do you see this one playing out, Ruff?
Yeah, it should be a kind of a blowout from the jump. I think it should pretty much be a 2-score game after one, and never really be less than that. Cincinnati should be very upset about their week one performance. I think Joe Burrow would take a lot better care of the football this week. Get the ball to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is out with the concussion. I think they already ruled him out, so that's going to be a playmaker that's gone. But they still have some other people that can help and pitch in. Joe Mixon is able to do work in the passing game as well, so they should be fine. On the Dallas side of the ball, like you said, Michael Parsons played well in week one. You need more other guys to step up, like you said. On the offensive side, Cooper Rush, I don't think is going to be able to do much. Like you said, your receiving core is pretty average, below average at this point. You got rid of Mari Cooper and Cedric Wilson, and you didn't replace either. I just don't understand what y'all were doing with that. And so I think it's going to be a tough game for the Cowboys. I think the Bengals should win it probably like 30-14. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me, or 30-13. It wouldn't surprise me.
Surprised you giving us a touchdown the way we looked last week. Well, I mean, we are going against Eli Apple this week, so I like CD's chances against him. What was that? Oh yes. So that's what bothers me. Like you moved on from Amari Cooper, you gave him away for a bag of chips. We talked about that in the spring. But you know how the Vikings, like they were talking about on Undisputed yesterday, when they moved on from Stephon Diggs, they went and drafted Justin Jefferson. Who did you replace Amari Cooper with? Jalen Tolbert, who you didn't even dress last week? I mean, and Cedric Wilson, I hate Jerry Jones is so cheap. I don't know why he didn't keep him because he was he had a great wavelength with Dak, and Cedric Wilson barely, saw action last week. So I really hate that Jerry was so cheap. We could have had Von Miller. Imagine him and Michael Parsons playing together. That would have been terrifying. So I don't know what my Cowboys are doing. So hopefully we look better this week, but I think it's going to be over at halftime. Next, we have the Houston Texans visiting the Denver Broncos. I expect Russell Wilson and this offense to bounce back. Their coach, he looked over his head last night. He made some questionable decisions. They beat themselves last night. I think it was more about them beating themselves than Seattle winning that game last night. And late in that game, they didn't manage the clock properly. They let the clock run all the way down, didn't call their timeouts, and then they kicked a 64-yard field goal to try to win the game. when you're paying a quarterback all that money that they're paying Russell Wilson, I want the ball in his hands. I'm paying him all that money for a reason. So I think they're going to look much better this week. And I think they should handle business and bounce back in his home opener in Denver. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I agree. Denver's got some question marks. Like you said, the coaching was terrible last night. Decision making, you're wasting the clock um, to ultimately take a 64-yard field goal, which is utterly
Crazy.
ridiculous. Like you said, you paid a guy all that money to be your guard, to be a star, and you didn't even give him the opportunity. They were very undisciplined with the penalties. I mean, had penalty after penalty after penalty. So you just got to be smarter if you're Denver. You got to make better decisions. And then also, Russell Wilson missed a couple of deep balls. I think he's going to have to get better wavelength with his receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. But I think starting this week, they're going to do that. They're going to look a little bit better, and I think they'll get a win.
Yeah, because he has a track team for receivers. You got Judy, Hamler, Sutton, like he talked about. So I think they'll put up some numbers against the Texans, who look like they may be better this year, but I wouldn't expect them to, be able to keep up with the Broncos, especially if Russ is cooking. Now, OJ Howard looked really good for them last week. That was surprising. I thought he was going to go to the Bengals, and if he had went to the Bengals, I think they would have been probably unstoppable on offense. So he looks really good for the Texans so far. So we shall see if he can follow up that performance he had in week one with another strong one in week two. But I think Denver's going to win, like you said. Next, we have the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. How do you see this one playing out, Russ?
That's a close one. I think both teams lost close games. Uh, where the Raiders especially lost a close game, they went up against a powerhouse in the Chargers. Chargers expected to be one of the better teams in the league this year. Um, so I think personally that the Raiders will win this game. I think the Derek Carr play a little bit better. Again, he'll find ways to get his receivers involved, like a Darren Waller, whose birthday is today. Um, and got his contract extension 3, 4 days before, so he's blessed.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
but I think Devontae Adams and Derek Carr wavelength will continue to be strong. Maybe they can get a little bit more from Josh Jacobs. And I think the Raiders will win. Arizona side of the ball, offensively, I think that Kyler is in a period where he's kind of trying to figure out some things. When you're without your guy in DeAndre Hopkins, one of the better receivers in football, you have a guy in AJ Green who is not the same player by any means. Um, but they're going to need Marquise Brown and Kyler to get on the same page, and also Zach Ertz. They're also going to need the defense to play a lot better, be more of a potent pass rush, uh, and just do certain things to make the game close and competitive. But for me, I'm gonna take the Raiders. I think the Raiders win by like 6.
I also took the Raiders. I have some concerns about Kyler Murray's offensive line. They didn't look very good last week, and by the time they started to figure things out, the Chiefs had got out to such a big lead. It was too big of a hill for them to climb. So I think the Raiders, they're in a competitive division, and you can't afford to start out 0-2 in this division. And the AFC is so loaded, you can't really afford to get off to an 0-2 start because it's gonna be a race to get those seven playoff spots. So I think the Raiders they'll bounce back at home this week. I think, like you said, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I think they'll still be a problem next week. And I think Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. I think they're really gonna get out to Kyler. You got to keep him in the pocket. You can't let him escape the window because he's explosive. If you let him out the pocket, he's fast. So I'm gonna take the Raiders in that one. I think they'll handle business in their home opener. Next, we got the Chicago Bears visiting the Green Bay Packers. The Bears they put off an upset at home last week over the 49ers. They look really good. The Packers didn't really look great. They were missing some linemen. The Vikings really got a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers. They're kind of in the same situation as the Cowboys. Uh, they lost Devontae Adams, really didn't replace him with anybody. So Aaron Rodgers, he really struggled last week. Um, I was so tempted to take the Bears, but I just can't see Aaron Rodgers starting 0-2 and losing two division games back to back. That would be problematic for the Packers. So I don't know how, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to find a way to win a very ugly, low scoring game. I think they'll lean on Dylan and Aaron Jones because they don't have the receivers that they've had in years past. So I think the Packers will win a very low scoring, probably be a defensive struggle on Sunday Night Football. How about you, Ruff?
I think that's going to be probably a lower scoring game too. Like you said, they like the weapons that they normally have. You lose Devontae Adams, you don't replace him. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is gone. You didn't really replace him. So now you're leaning on guys like Sammy Watkins, who is not very old. I mean, he's still young enough to be productive, but he's always kind of had some kind of injury, and it just seemed like a guy that hadn't gotten out of his career what you thought he would. Then you're going with a guy like Randall Cobb, who I thought would have a better game, one, just for the fact that although he's older, he normally has a good connection with Aaron Rodgers. But that connection didn't look good in that first game. They had some plays that just really didn't go well. But I'm with you. I think Aaron Rodgers will figure out a way to win a lower scoring game and get a win on the board. Uh, yeah, 0-2 would not be good for the Packers.
It would not, especially with the divisional games. You can't afford to go to 0-2 in the division. So let's move to our Monday night games. We have two Monday. So the first one is Tennessee versus Buffalo. Buffalo, they looked really good last week. If it wasn't for the turnovers, that game probably would have been a much bigger margin, a victory for them. But I'm taking the Bills in this one, especially the way their defense looked. I think they're really going to limit Derrick Henry, and they're really going to get after Ryan Tannehill, probably cause some turnovers, and their offense is going to be hard to stop. So I got the Bills winning. How about you?
Yeah, I think the Bills will win also. The Bills, I mean, they just got a squad, man. They really do. Especially if they can get their running game to be consistent. You know, you have a guy in Josh Allen who is capable of beating you on the ground and in the air. Um, Devin Singletary, I like. A lot of people used to think he wasn't very good, which he's still not elite, but I think he's a very solid back. If you get him the touches and you let him get in the rhythm, I think he could do some good things. Zach Moss is not a bad running back. He's got to be more consistent, though. And also, you have a Ricky and James Cook who fumbled his first carry, but I think that's only going to make him stronger. And also, I don't think you're going to have to necessarily use him a lot this year. So even if he has to have like a year of a learning curve, I think that'll be fine. Stephon Diggs is a monster. I mean, he's one of the better receivers in football. And so I think the Buffalo will win that game. I think it's going to be a kind of close game too. But I think in the end there'll be too much.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to close out the show, we got the Minnesota Vikings visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. This one will be at 8:30 on ABC. How do you see this one playing out, Ron?
That's a pretty close one too. I think we're going to actually have a lot of competitive games this week, which last week was not bad at all. I mean, it was not a whole lot of blowouts. Uh, I think Minnesota will win that game. I still just don't trust Jalen Hurts. I know he had a pretty good first game, but I don't trust him. I think the Minnesota has enough weapons. You know, Justin Jefferson is a monster. He's a guy that's been on record saying he would love to be the Triple Crown winner, and he's going to have a chance. I think Adam Thielen is a very good receiver who was not utilized much in week one. He didn't necessarily have to be. Dalvin Cook is a stud at the running back position. So I think all of those things are going to work together for the favor of the Vikings offense. And I think their defense will be able to kind of neutralize Hurts, like I said, and come out with a win. I'm going to say 27 to 20. I'm going to say 27-23 Vikings over the Eagles.
Yeah, so I'm really intrigued by this matchup because you got Slade, who's one of the best corners in the league. I'm wondering if he's going to travel with Justin Jefferson because, Kirk Cousins is going to give him 10 to 15 targets in this game. Uh, and I think the Vikings defense looks like they're going to be much improved this year. They really drafted a lot of players and they signed Smith, and he really got after Aaron Rodgers last week. And I just don't think the Eagles will be able to run the ball like they did on the Lions in week one. And I think the pressure is just going to be too much for Jalen Hurts. And I just don't trust him to make the big time throws in a close game. So I'm going to take Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, and I think they're going to get off to a 2-0 start. And I think they'll be leading the division after week two. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really close game. I hate we got two really good games on Monday night, so probably have to have one on the phone or my laptop or something. But uh, like you said, week two we got a lot of good games. It's going to be very competitive, so I'm looking forward to week two. Ruff, I appreciate you for joining the show, bro. You want to tell people they can follow you and all that and support your podcast, my brother.
Again, there was no problem. Enjoyed joining the show for week 2 preview and a little bit of WSSU talk. You can follow my podcast, Time Out Sports Podcast, on Spotify and iTunes at Time Out Sports Podcast. The Twitter page is Time Out Sports 3. Sports is all caps. And then our Instagram is Time Out Sports with 2 underscores. Also, make sure to follow my WNBA League Fits page, is where I created to highlight the fashion of the ladies in the WNBA, whether it's pregame fits or it's, just in their leisure time. That you can follow the Twitter page at Fits_WNBA, and Instagram is WNBA League Fits.
Yes, sir. And make sure y'all interact with Ruff on his Time Out Sports page. He plays some games, and he does polls and a bunch of cool stuff. So make sure you follow him and interact with him because he does some great things, my brother. And I'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.